Menscape The Podcast with Carl.J. Ashley.
So welcome to this evening's guest for the February Menscape podcast, the one and only Mr. Mark Attwood. How you doing, Mark?
Good to meet you, Carl. Very well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for agreeing to come on the show. Myself and my partner have been following some of your activity online recently there. And so it'd be good to sort of pick your brains and get to know you a little bit. And obviously for the other gents in the Menscape group, we'd be delighted to hear more. Please tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Who do you think you are, you twat? Okay, so I'm in Ireland, and my nan was born in Limerick, but I didn't find that out until I was 20. I grew up in Northampton. My nan, yeah. I found out. I grew up in Northamptonshire. Working class boy, dreamed of being a pilot, joined the RAF, became a pilot, realized I was working for people that I didn't understand. So I resigned, went to Manchester, studied economics for 3 years, and realized what a waste of time education was. I was a journalist at the Daily Telegraph. I was a stand-up poet. I was a published poet when I was 21. I was a stand-up comic for a few years. I had a theatre company. I went into business. I became a pioneer in internet marketing. I set up the world's first online skip hire company. I retired to Morocco in 2014, and that's all the 3D stuff. But the real story is that my earliest memories, that demons trying to recruit me in 1973 during the blackout of Ted Heath's satanic government. And then this whole spiritual journey kind of got sidetracked when I was going into the military, and sort of reawakened in the 90s. And when I was handed a copy of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion in a curry house in Manchester by a Canadian comedian called Alan Park. And I was going down rabbit holes in the 90s because I knew things weren't right with the world, put it that way. And then my friend Jeff Campbell was in the towers on 9/11 and died. And his brother tried to dig into that because he never believed the official story. And I was over his shoulder for the next 16 years. I got invited to Guantanamo Bay to go and see the trial of one of the terrorists.
Right.
My wife wouldn't let me go. I've been involved in all sorts of stuff. I was talking about all of this. The real virus is actually what people call the global elite, who are really satanic pedivores that destroy the lives of 22,000 children every single day, and have done that for at least the last 100 years. That's over 1 billion children. That's the thing that gets me up every day and makes me search for more truth, share the truth, and investigate as much as I possibly can. And then, of course, all this culminated in COVID. And the short version is that when COVID happened, I knew it was coming, and I knew what it was. I was expecting it at some point, and it was still fucking mad to live through. I mean, we're still in it, but I basically got a calling from God to go on YouTube, and I was like, and I avoided going on YouTube to talk about this stuff for quite a few years. I've done it on Facebook, but not on YouTube, because I had a digital marketing business, and I've got 5 kids and I'm a single dad, and I thought, I'm going to lose my business if they see me talking about this stuff. So I didn't. But anyway, I got the call, and funnily enough, I was in Limerick at the time, on a road trip with my eldest son, and I gave him the camera and I said, point this at me. He was like, what for? I said, I'm just going to talk. So I talked for 20 minutes, started my YouTube channel, and it's just taken me to incredible places. It's been an extraordinary 2.5 years that's totally changed my life. I just did a tour in America, 17 dates in America, called the Truth Tour. I was the only English guy on that tour, and I did the whole thing, 14,000 miles, 17 cities in 31 days. I did a big event in Manchester a few months ago. I'm doing another one in April. Live events. I've got a book coming out. I mean, it's just crazy. It's been amazing.
You're a busy man.
Well, when there's a lot of people that got the call, but not everybody answers it. And I believe I always kind of knew this was going to happen. and it's been a, I call this last 2.5 years, some people might call it COVID and everything, I call it spiritual quarantine. And I think we're in a spiritual war. It's good versus evil.
For sure.
It's a war for our souls.
For sure.
And people have had to pick a side, and I think COVID's been the greatest gift to humanity ever, because for the first time in history, we know exactly who everybody is. And that's quite an extraordinary position to be in. So yeah, and then, it's just hard to explain, really. I met 10,000 people in the States, and people were crying at my feet. And well, that's mad, because it's just been me sat in front of a laptop for a couple of years. I'm also a poet. My poems have kind of narrated this time. I've made poetry videos that have narrated this time, and I'll play a few if you want. And my message to people really is that it's time to what God told me. I was suicidal 4 or 5 years ago, for the first time in my life. It basically knocked out most of my ego. Not too much. You're still going to get up and go on YouTube and blah blah blah. But
it's a good preparation for what's to come.
I think so. Yeah, it's. I got told by God, you have to let everything go, and letting go. And by the way, I was an atheist for 30 years. If anybody's watching,
is it true he's a black woman?
Yeah, he's been recast by Hollywood as a black woman. Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, and all of those. I wouldn't have all the words that have come out of my mouth now. I keep thinking back, when I was 25, I'd have gone, what, Mark? What happened to you? It sounds like a science fiction film. And it is. So, my message really for people is it's time to stop being afraid. It's time to stand up for yourself. It's time to become sovereign. When we go forward, we need sovereign nations, free people, and governments controlled by the people, which they haven't been ever. And it's an amazing time, because really this is the ascension. We're in the time of revelation, and it's quite amazing. It's the most amazing time to be on Earth. Although it's weird and scary and fucked up, it's actually quite an extraordinary time to be.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few bits in there that resonate with my own journey. I haven't been on a tour around America with people weeping at my feet. I can confidently say there's a difference there. But I remember I've written 5 books, published 3 books, and all of my books have a theme of telling it like it is, and literally documenting going through depression, anxiety, lack of self-love, lack of self-esteem. I had, I suppose, a really difficult time around 2011, where I was very depressed. I'd bought a semi-detached house in County Clare, had 4 kids, got a wife, 3 dogs, mad cat, doing all of that, and just something wasn't fucking right. And I was living a lie. And I went to see a psychic medium, and she turned around and she sort of looked into the space next to me and said, "Who's Charlie?" Well, my mind was blown so far up my fucking hole, because Charlie was my father's father, who died before I was even born. There's no way she could have known that. There's no way she could have been trolling me, man. Like, there's no way. And he died in 1961. I was born in 1973, and he came through in 2000. He literally came through 50 of our years later. So there was no way that this woman could have known this, no matter, people are disbelieving. But for me, there was a huge and it opened me up to a path that I'd never really been open to before. My life had been all about getting shit-faced, drink, drugs, nightclubs, mostly getting stoned. I was a big-time stoner. I used to wake up and skin up, go to bed and skin up all day in between in my years in Leeds. But I always had an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. And I always had a sort of obsession with truth, like the truth, sharing the truth, speaking the truth. And I created the Truth Clinic about 3 years ago in the lockdown as an umbrella for and a platform for people to speak truth and share truth. And part of that is the Menscape group, the men's mental health group I facilitate, and the Write Coach, where I help people write books and tell the story of their journey. These days now, when I look back, like, literally, if I wasn't rolling a spliff or drinking a pint or being a shark on the pool table or playing the bandits or playing, the jukebox, it was a surprise. And here I am these days meditating with crystals, and, the transition is huge. It's remarkable. So when you talk about a spiritual journey, I like that. When you talk about a spiritual journey, there is that sense that it's kind of unfolded and unfolding in a way that you're not necessarily in control of. You're kind of going with the flow. And when you have, like I did, a breakdown where you start crying and you can't stop crying, your ego dies. You realize true humility, stepping into authenticity, as Gabor Mate says. Your authenticity conflicts with your need for approval. So as a child, it's like, miss, pick me. I know the capital of Egypt is Cairo, and we're groomed to be a good boy, to learn things, to know things, and get that need for approval met. Once you get over that and you step into authenticity and just being committed to who you are and speaking your truth, there's no going back. That's not a half-assed thing. So your whole world can fall apart like mine did, and your ego gets destroyed in the process. It can still come back in whatever way and forms as a kind of as an ego trap as such. But I like that there's that resonating sort of concepts in our stories. Have you ever written a book?
Yeah. Where is it? It's not very. It's up here somewhere. It's not very interesting.
There's a few.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a published poet. I've written a book on marketing, digital marketing, because I know a lot about that, which is weird. And I'm writing. I've got another poetry book coming out in April. Then I'm writing another book, which is about. It's called Adventures in a. It's named after my show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit: The Spiritual Awakening of an Idiot.
Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. I love that.
Well, when I started the show, I was very clear about one thing.
A meat suit? Was there an original name for it, like a meat suit?
Yeah, well, that was the original name of my show. It's called Adventures in a Meat Suit because we are ghosts in meat suits. We are spirits having a human adventure, not humans having a spiritual adventure.
And so it takes a while to actually grasp that if you're grown up in an environment where the focus is all on materialism, spiritual and the metaphysical is denied. And so you're almost sort of, falling upon that or discovering that. And then all of a sudden, once you see it, you're like, how comes I could never see this? Like, there's no going back. It seems so obvious, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're eternal spirits. And once you understand that, you lose all fear. When you do ayahuasca, for example, most people that take it go through a kind of death experience because the spirit of ayahuasca wants you first to get rid of your fear of death. But when I first did it, it didn't do that because I was a pilot. I've got no fear of death. And I'm not looking forward to it, but I know that we go on. We've been here lots and lots of times before. So therefore, you can't, what are you afraid of? You can't be afraid of anything if you know that you never die. You can't die. You just come here for an experience. This is really kind of a school, and it's like the hardest school in the universe. But we chose to come here, and we chose all the crap things that happened to us, and all those crap things. What this journey I think is about is understanding that all the bad stuff that happens in your life is there because you wanted it there to teach you a lesson. So if you look at it as a lesson and say, what am I learning from this? Then you go with the flow. And once you start going with the flow, magical things happen and you realize that you are a master creator and that we create this universe and we are manifestors. And that's why this where we are currently living is literally an open air prison planet. It's what they wanted to do, what they have been in the process of doing is digitally mapping everything. Every single living thing to put into the metaverse because they want to get rid of humans. It's transhumanism. They want to get rid of. We're a pain in the ass, but they feast off our souls. Useless eaters, and they feed off the loosh, which we release when we're in a state of anxiety or fear, and they created this whole system. It's all bullshit. Money is bullshit. It's just a made up thing. It's an instrument of slavery. I did economics for 5 years in total, and nobody ever once mentioned the fractional reserve banking system. And that is the key tool of our enslavement. Mortgages, the word mortgage means death grip.
Death
You know,
grip.
the whole legal system is based on fraud. The whole system is fraudulent.
Maritime law.
It's all maritime law, and it's all designed to just keep us busy, getting the mortgage, getting the kids, and then we send the kids off to indoctrination camp. You know, the fucking school here threatened me with prison last week because I took the kids out of school during the mask mandates last year. And he said, "You had too many days off school." I said, "Because you were fucking committing child abuse." And they were, "Oh, you could go to prison." I said, "Well, I know who you are. I'm not scared of you." And they go, "Oh, they don't like it," because it's all based on fear. You know, even bailiffs coming to your door. It's bullshit. I mean, the world is run on yellow paint and red ink, which is what they teach you at school. Park where you want. You know, if you get a letter, if the bailiff comes to the door, just say, "I refute your implied right of access to this property." Now go away. And they will, because they have to, because it's the true law. Lawful and legal, two different things, you know. And this is what this period's really been about. You know, there's a great book, I don't know if I've got it here, called Full Spectrum Dominance, which I read about 12 years ago by Engdahl. I can't remember his name. Full Spectrum Dominance. Everybody should read that.
Full Spectrum Dominance. I'm actually going to come back and ask you about books later on that you'd recommend and why and stuff.
Yeah, well, I've got most of them up here.
Part of about a half a dozen questions, maybe more, I'm going to throw at you. One of which, when you said you were a pilot, led us nicely into. Have you ever jumped out of a plane?
Well, I fell out of a plane. I did.
You tripped over and fell, or you actually intended to fall?
Yeah. I'll tell you the whole story. I went to do a parachute jump with the Red Devils at Aldershot, and the Red Devils are the display team for the parachute regiment. And I spent 3 days there with the paras training, and I got into this Islander, which is a short takeoff aircraft built in Belfast actually, and we took off on the school playing field, and there were 6 of us sat in the back of this plane. It was a static line jump at 2,000 feet, and trained 3 days of training, and you just put your one arm here and one arm here, and you look inside, and the guy checks you, goes behind, checks the lines there, and then comes around and says jump. But he checked me, then he turned around to check the wire. By the time he turned around, I'd gone because I just fell out. So my legs were going like this. The plane was a little dot in 2 seconds, and then fortunately the parachute opened, and then I landed. But yeah, I've done that once.
I was really keen to do that in my 20s. There was a place in the middle of the country in England, and they said I had to raise some money for charity. So it was something like, raise about £600 and they'll give half of it to charity, and you go up and you do it. Never got the money together in the end to do it, but it always struck me as a pretty amazing thing to do when you're relying on pulling that cord. And if it doesn't work, you're goosed. That's also like cheating death, I suppose.
Well, I think that's why people go back for the adrenaline kick. I wouldn't do it again. I'm too old, I think, now. But
once was enough.
I'm glad I did it. Yeah.
Is there anything as exhilarating than falling free through the air from so many thousand feet?
Well, I was an aerobatic pilot when I was a teenager, and I enjoyed that enormously. And going on stage as a stand-up is extremely interesting.
You have to have some cojones for that. I always loved the idea of being a stand-up comic. I just never really was that funny enough,
I think you'd be good.
Well, I found if you just talk to people about real life, like, I'm changing one of the kids' nappies and suddenly it starts squirting all over me, and I'm looking for something, and I'm almost out my body looking down on this, and it's fucking hilarious. You couldn't make this up. You don't need a script. Just talking about real life is perfect material for stand-up. And being a dad, as you know, there's no shortage of material for any kind of comedy. But yeah, I'd love to do that, but I'd find it hard to get over myself and get up there and be able to take the heckling and the criticism, even though I did door-to-door sales for many years of my life. And if you knocked 100 doors and 90 people told you to fuck off, that was a great day. you know,
Yeah, that
I'm no
toughens you up.
stranger to the rejection.
Well, that's what I mean. You know, my life's been full of things that are exhilarating. I don't see danger. I mean, I got an investor once in a business, and he sat in a meeting. He said, "You just don't see danger." And I went, "What danger?" He said he was a very risk adverse investor, but yeah, life's about doing whatever it is that you want to do. You know, you're here to enjoy yourself, and that's what I try to inspire people to do. I've been doing that for years, even before COVID.
Have you ever ridden a horse?
Yes.
Driven a Ferrari?
No, but I've been in one that's been driven.
Cheated death we've kind of covered, unless there was something else.
No, I know. Cheating death's a big one. I've cheated death loads of times.
Yeah.
First time I got meningitis in the 70s. And this was quite weird because my parents were apparently told I had like a 3% chance of survival. And I had this lumbar puncture. And for years, my memory was that I was lying there on my front talking to the nurse. And then about 10 years ago, I had a flashback that I was actually watching the operation from above, talking to somebody with me. So I realized that was actually an out-of-body experience, maybe an NDA, but that was when I was about 8 or 9. And then there's a few other incidences. I just cheated death last a couple of months ago. Actually, I was in the mountains, in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco.
Yeah,
driving a car down from Essaouira, and it was about 11 o'clock at night, and pitch black, no lights whatsoever, mountainous road, doing about 50 miles an hour. Went around this corner. There was about 15 dogs right in front of us. There was no way we weren't going to hit them, and there was no way through, and there was no way they were going to move in time. And somehow we got through them. And everybody in the car went, how did that happen? I said, I have no idea. I think it's part of the magic that's going on, because the last few years has been incredible magical things that I've experienced, that I've been sharing on my YouTube channel and in my live shows, and what I will be sharing more detail in my book, that you can't ignore. You know, like dragons made of light, spaceships, stars talking to me, portals, you know, astral projection, getting claircognizance. I've realized that I'm claircognizant, and it's extraordinary. And I'm just all I've been doing is sharing my experiences with other people and finding other people that have had amazing experiences as well, and then just sharing these stories, because that's given, you know, COVID was an extremely isolating time for billions of people. And I think the internet's been amazing in the way that we've been able to reach. We didn't reach all of them, but we reached a lot of them, and it gave them a lot of strength during this period. Hence the crying at my feet business, which is incredibly humbling.
What was interesting was I when I created the Menscape group, it was with the idea in mind that the pubs and the restaurants were closed and guys had nowhere to go to and talk. But the day-to-day reality, if we needed to go somewhere, we just ignored that stay-at-home bullshit. But for the most part, I didn't really want to go out and talk to people anyway. I'm quite introspective and quite insular. So it was actually a good time for me in the sense, personally. I moved out here to Tipperary with my partner literally about 2 weeks before the lockdown happened in March 2020. Like, you couldn't make this up. The way I was in a city in Limerick in an apartment on my own, moved out here, then all that happened. And it was just after having a metaphysical reading by a woman who was, again, a mind-blowing experience. I met her at 2 p.m. on the 22nd of the 2nd, 2020. It was like a cosmic appointment. We made sure we couldn't forget that. And there it was. And the stuff she told me, she gave me a tape at the end, and I've listened to it a few times. It's just so mind-blowing. I can't begin to explain how much I've evolved since then, let alone up until then. But these coincidences and these synchronicities, they start to happen more and more and more until, like you say, you can't ignore it. Yeah, you're here for a reason. Get on with it. Find what it is, do it. And, you know, it's like you mentioned there a few times about aliens and UFOs. Did you have an abduction memory, or did you feel that you were taken against your will, or like, I suppose it sounds blasé to say were you abducted by aliens? I don't mean to make it sound a bit, you know.
No, it's fine. I've seen literally tens of thousands of ships over the years. mainly as like what the Second World War pilots would call Foo Fighters, which are little white balls of light that zip about. And, you know, I can go outside now and I'll probably see one of those within 10 minutes. You know, they're all over the place all the time. In terms of recollections of abductions, I don't know, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that has happened.
Have you done any hypnosis or channeling or anything like that?
Yeah, I've done hundreds of hours of that sort of thing, and all of this sort of thing always comes up. And I have had flashbacks. Like I have a flashback of like 5 or 6 grays around my feet. I've had flashbacks of
were they crying at your feet as well, like the guys in America?
No, they weren't crying. They were doing something.
Were they scary?
Yeah, they were.
Greys are like the servants of the reptilians, I believe.
Yeah, they're the kind of androids, organic androids, basically. And they were a flashback of them operating in my head.
Whoa.
Weird shit like that. And I've since found out that multidimensionally, this is what they do. We're extremely powerful. This is why they tell us 97% of our DNA is junk. It's not. It's just been deactivated and hidden from us. When it comes back online, we're going to be like superheroes. It's just amazing. That's why what I've seen in the last 3 years is that people are getting more psychic. They're going through all these spiritual awakenings. They're going through, and it's all happening at different paces for different people, but it's definitely happening. And it's happening to ordinary people. When I say ordinary people, I mean, forget Deepak, forget Oprah, forget the Dalai Lama. They're all limited hangout Satanists. They're all Satanists, right? And they've because we are spiritual beings, they've had to create these movements to corral the human race and say, it's like a limited hangout. Catholicism is a limited hangout. And that's a satanic organization as well. And it's just corralling people to give them enough spirituality to make them feel like they've got a place where they can connect to God. Because really all of this is all about is connecting to the mountain of light inside you and activating that pineal gland and then starting to get the information coming in from God. That's what this is all about, because we are fractals of God. That's what we all are. Although I do subscribe to the Dolores Cannon theory and work that the Earth, as we've just seen through COVID, is packed with what she called background characters, what most people now would call player characters. Yeah. And there was a film, Free Guy, last year that explained all of this in allegory.
Really? What was it called?
It was Free Guy.
Free Guy.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds, I think it was.
I'll have a look at that.
It's an amazing allegory it's about an NPC who wakes up and finds his soul and wants to get out of the virtual world that he's in, which is where we're at, I think.
The way I would like to describe it, and the way I have described it, is we very much are powerful beings, and through being in a human reincarnation, a human rebirth, one of our capacities here on Earth is as master manifestors. So we have the power to create our own reality. But from day one that you go to preschool, primary school, secondary school, university, all that bullshit, nobody encourages you or tells you who or what your powers and what your potential is and what you're capable of. We are divine will manifest in the body of a man or a woman with, like you say, this incredible capacity for manifestation as an eternal soul, spirit, vital life force, energy, whatever you want to call it. Your body's like a housing mechanism for this unbelievable potential. And so it's almost like you have to uncover or rediscover or stumble upon this, because you ain't going to learn it from your parents. You ain't going to learn it from school. Where's it going to come from? Is it like, is there a, say, like a thread of past lives and previous incarnations, and you almost have to remember who you are and what you are?
100%. That's what this is all about. I mean, I had my Akashic records done yesterday. You know,
is that another sort of loose mining soul trap camp or whatever you want to call it? The Akashic, if every behavior or every action is recorded, does that prove David Icke's theory that we're in a simulation?
Yeah, I think so. I think it does. But we are we are, even though we're not, most people aren't aware of their manifesting power, they're manifesting this all the time. And what the demons have done is via various means got hijacked those manifesting skills, and they're constantly pumping us with frequencies, which is basically software that we're then turning into hardware. It's not just the moon. I mean, if you walk around London, you can't walk 3 steps without walking past the symbol of Saturn, which is the London Underground and the Transport for London logo. So that logo in and of itself contains a frequency that's beamed into us that we're then creating a reality from that information. We don't even know we're doing it.
That's one of the reasons why I enjoy living remotely in a field in rural Ireland. Anytime I go back to Manchester, I miss my family. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to be unkind, but they willingly suffer this sort of relentless bombardment of their consciousness with advertising 24/7, whether it's television, radio, billboards, and I don't consent to it. I get in the car and I say, "Can I switch off the radio?" And they're looking at, "Is there something fucking wrong with you? It's the radio." And I'm like, "Yeah,
I literally,
keep advertising all the time." And I'm not giving them permission to do that, because I have respect for my consciousness and the filter of what I'll allow in. But when you talk about being bombarded with frequencies, you maybe don't have so much control over that, do you? Or if you recognize it, you can.
There's lots of things you can do. This house is full of organite. I've got grander water. I've got frequency devices, healing machines. I've got a copper peptide.
That, mate. You see that?
Oh, yeah, lovely. That's nice.
Organite.
This is one made by my friends in Marrakesh.
Is that shungite?
Yeah, it's organite with shungite in it.
This is a shungite Merkaba. How do you like that?
Oh, I've got a few of them.
My light's not great. I don't know if you can.
I can see it.
That's a belter.
That is a belter.
That came from Russia, from shungite.
It's gorgeous. But look at this. This is a tensor ring.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and this captures angelic energy.
We could just do a crystal show, Mark.
I'm going to say we're just a couple of hippies. I've got all sorts of shit here. I've got the red light machine.
Clear quartz Merkaba. The thing with the Merkaba was, I was sat there with my daughter one morning. We were looking at symbols, ancient sacred symbols, on a website online. And we both saw the Merkaba and we both drew it on a piece of paper. So we're drawing the Merkaba, our own definition of Merkaba, that very same afternoon in the health shop in Tipperary. This guy manifested itself the very afternoon of the morning that we'd both drawn it down on a piece of paper, having never really come across it before. Yeah. And I was investigating the meaning. What does a Merkaba mean? It's to do with spiritual manifestation in the physical and physical manifestation in the spiritual, as above, so below kind of thing. Yeah, well, I used it as my Truth Clinic logo.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I mean, we can travel in Merkabas as well.
Right.
Yeah, they're incredible. They're everywhere. All these things are manifesting, and all of these things are popping up in our consciousness at the same time. For example, I was in a stone circle last week in Derbyshire, and I went because a woman who watches my channel just rang me up and said, "You need to come and feel the energy in this place." And I was like, "Okay, I'm coming." So I went and did a talk in Buxton, and then the next day I went to meet her, and we stood in this place near Babington Hall, which was the home of the guy that tried to assassinate Queen Elizabeth I, and it was a portal. And we both knew it was a portal. We stood in the energy of it. And then she said, "You need to come to this stone circle." So I went to this stone circle called Arbor Low, which I've since found out is, I found out on the day that it's the intersection of 9 ley lines. So it's actually the most powerful stone circle in the UK, which makes it probably the most powerful one in the world. But most people have never heard of it.
Right.
And then I get all these downloads, and I was like, all these messages, and I was like, oh, okay, so Stonehenge, Avebury, and all of that, they're just distractions. They're just keeping everybody away from this, which is
the decoys.
It's all decoys, yeah. So we're in the middle of this circle, and then I got this message, there's a blockage over there. So I ran over this hump. So there were these concrete pillars there that were old, and we found out later they had copper wires in the ground. And I knew immediately what it was because it had it was engraved with VR, which was Victoria Regina. And knowing what I know about the royal family, I realized they've been basically siphoning off the energy from this fucking stone circle for hundreds of years. And I was like, hang on, there's 9 ley lines here. There must be 9 more of these or 8 more of these. So we went around and there were. And they were all around. And the woman I was with has been going there for 30 years. She'd never seen them. It's really weird. And I think they were probably invisible, but the veil is definitely moving. And then we found the 10th one, that's GR, which is George Rex, which I think is the king that followed. And that was really demonic. So I was with this woman, Gillian, that I was with. She's an energy healer, an intuitive and a psychic and everything else. So we cleared all of them with a little crystal skull and intentions and invocations and everything. And on the last one, it was a really overcast day, and we were filming it as well. And the film of this is being edited now. On the last one, the sun suddenly came out of nowhere and a patch of blue sky appeared, but it wasn't the sun. It was something else. It was like a ball of plasma with like electricity going through it and had this spinning light going around it. And it was all weird. And it almost looked like an animation. And I knew immediately, intuitively, that I was looking at 6D. Right. And it was beyond the veil. And I was looking right into it. And I was shouting, can you all see this? Can you see this? And they joined in. Gillian joined in. And there were these 2 women there who'd been walking the dog, who kept trying to leave and then kept coming back because they wondered what we were doing. And then they saw the sun and they came and stood next to us. And they were going, my God, I've never seen anything like it. And then all these colors were coming out of it, which were like a purple, like Saint-Germain kind of purple and blue. Which is led me to something else, which I'll talk about later. And even my cameraman, Kieran, who's Irish, Mancunian Irish, he's been working with me for about 3 years. He's totally skeptical about all this spiritual stuff. But just before it happened, he actually said to himself, God, please show me something, because Mark's nuts and I need to see something. I need to see something for myself. And he saw it and he was filming it. I don't know if it's going to show up.
I wonder if he manifested it all for you.
I don't know, but whatever's going on, it's fucking exciting. It's amazing. And if you just allow yourself, really, it's just about listening. We're all God speaks to us all the time, but we don't listen because they've got us so distracted.
And not just
that's why meditation is so important.
Real life is stranger than fiction, and we've become so groomed and obsessed with a world created by fiction, whether it's television, movies, books. It's like this world of fiction, like you're saying now, the metaverse and what that's becoming to take us even further away from what we might regard as reality. If you go into nature, if you go into a forest or you go into a beach, you feel so relaxed and composed and at one with your true nature or your highest self or your best self or the best version of you. And yet we're all so, like you say, preoccupied, this addiction to distraction, this proliferation of all these different ways to take our energy and attention away from what's sacred and what's divine. This idea that there's demons, it's not unusual if you're talking about them as being unseen. Yeah, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it goes into detail to describe where if you see your reflection in a lake, if you're looking in a lake and you don't see your reflection, it says, don't panic. It just means you're in the between. In other words, you've gone from, being in a body to dying, your disembodied consciousness. So you can still perceive, you still have the faculty of perception through being conscious, but you're not embodied. So it says, don't panic, just realize you're not in a body and you're in the between. But be aware that, there's demons going to come along. And if they terrify you or scare you, you'll go back into being an ego, and then you'll go back into being in a human incarnation in a body. Whereas if you just laugh at the demons and recognize that they're a part of you and you're a part of them and you're all part of this indescribable whole, then it's almost like passing the test. Demons are not going to scare you. You're not going to suffer another human rebirth. Off you go through. And I'm reading this, and this is purely fucking mind-blowing. And you know, I was on my own in this apartment in Limerick, and there was 3 floors, and I was 3 floors up. And on the second floor, I don't know what the fuck was living there, but it was like you could only describe it as an entity, an undescribable entity. I just walked up the stairs one night and I passed through it. And it was like just a different shape of darkness from the darkness that was there, but it was definitely there. And I passed through it, and every single hair stood up on the back of my neck. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And I ran upstairs and I closed the door and I locked the door and I sat on the bed in my meditation posture and I started fucking lining the crystals up, the black obsidian, the black tourmaline. And it was like, what the fuck was that? It was so real. It was there was a demonic entity, a dark force of something that was there. And I've no way of describing what it was, but it was real.
Well, I completely believe you.
Outside of me, you know?
Yeah, I totally believe you. I had one on my back 2 years ago that was so heavy I had to climb up the stairs on my hands and knees. I mean, they're everywhere. And the thing is, the whole human race has been possessed by demons forever, but we didn't know it.
We are, say, the host, and they're a parasitic entity, and it's almost like we're shrugging it off. And as you say, the levels of consciousness are raising. There's more awareness. And I don't know if you subscribe to this idea that we're in the age of Aquarius and what have you.
We are.
But is this happening across the board? Are we all at different levels? It's like we've got guys in the Menscape group. We've been kind of arguing all week, really. There's 1 or 2 of us sort of sharing truth about this is how it is. And then there's other guys coming back and they say, well, we're looking for proof. We want this, this, and this. They're only looking at the mainstream channels and what they've always heard. So they're just getting the same old bullshit and they're entrenched in that. They've not had the minds blown open or had this indescribable suffering or breakdown or whatever. But we've all, every single one of us had some level of trauma to deal with, and we're still carrying it. And I wonder if that's what the demons are creating or feeding off.
100%. In fact, I did a video on this very subject for vaccinated people, and I put it up on Saturday night, and it had like 400,000 views on Twitter.
Wow!
In just in like 2 days, and you know, I put this all in my poetry as well. You know, this is the Great Awakening that we're going through.
Yeah,
this is going to be huge, and it's going to drop any minute.
And we're a part of it.
We're all part of it. And the people that
fist pumps there, man. Boom, 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 boom.
And the thing is, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be in deep shock, and they've had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to go and do their own research, listen to themselves, sit in nature, meditate, you know. But the common theme that people like you and me have had is we've been through huge traumas, and that seems to be like a very common theme that allows you to kind of move through the demonic possession and start remembering who you are, and then standing in your power, standing in your truth. And you get to that point where you don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about you, which is an amazing place to be.
It's so liberating, isn't it? When you it's not that you don't care. It's just that what you think of me is none of my fucking business. Work away. Whatever you want to think is fine. I'm just going to be me. I'll do me. You do you. You know, and yeah. It's like it's not so easy to grasp if you're caught up in that world of being social or sociable or being concerned with what other people think and your perception amongst your peers.
Yeah, and you know, the video I did at the weekend was just saying, look, if you got vaccinated, we tried to tell you were duped. We knew it was fake. And we know you've been duped, and a lot of you are going to die. Hopefully, not too many. And I do believe in miracles, and we're saying prayers for you. And I said, we're here for you. And you know, it's now a time of unity, not division. And it looks like there's division everywhere, but the people who did get vaxxed under duress, and a lot of them did it just because for their job, because they had to bring up kids, for their holidays. You know, because they just trusted the government.
I must admit, I had very little sympathy for those that were just too weak to stand in their power and say, fuck off. But I was chatting to a mate of mine, one of the gents in the Menscape group, and he said he got jabbed 3 times so that he could go and see his father in hospital who was dying. And all of a sudden I thought, what a prick was I being for holding it against him that he, didn't sort of see it from where I was coming from, which was, your book of Revelations, your mark of the beast, over my dead body, am I getting jabbed, I couldn't understand, but it totally disarmed me. I was like, how could I have been so harsh, Yeah,
because it's not, nothing's ever black and white, is it? And it is a time for compassion. We have to be, ayahuasca taught me about forgiveness about 8 years ago. Forgiveness for hours and hours, forgiveness.
Where'd you do it?
I did it in North London, but it was like forgiveness. And forgiving yourself is the first thing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right? You have to forgive yourself because you have been demonically possessed. And we've all done stupid things, but just forgive yourself because it's all part of this earth school. And then forgive everybody else. We're holding on to people so way too much. And we're just going to realize we're just passing through. Everybody's a reflection of you anyway. We're all part of one consciousness. So we're all actually doing each a favor. When you get divorced and it's horrible and painful, you're actually doing each other a favor, but you have to switch your thinking that way. And you have to observe your life instead of react in your life. And that's what I think this massive psychological warfare operation has been designed to do, to see what you're made of, to see what you're about. It's propelled a lot of people into a deeply accelerated spiritual path back to who they are, because we're all walking each other home back to source. And there's a lot of people.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you. I'm just saying it's also polarized things as well. So if you're on the fence, there's no real time for sitting on the fence. You're either going one way or the other. And it's pretty clear, which way you need to go in terms of what's right for you. Like this idea of, getting divorced, doing yourself a favor. When you come to the realization that the only relationship that matters is the one that you have with yourself, and you take steps, not in a greedy, indulgent, selfish way, but if you take steps to ensure that your own needs are being met in a wholesome way, it's almost like you're opening up or paving the way for the universe to respond in kind by delivering unto you other relationships with other people who in turn themselves have had to discover self-love, genuine self-care, and self-esteem. And it's that energetic vibration that you carry, but it's almost like the precursor is your life has to fall apart first.
Yeah, it does.
Ego death.
Well, look, true art is destruction and then rebuilding. That's what we are. We're incredibly creative. Alex Collier, the Andromedan contactee, who's been talking about this stuff for 30 plus years, he says that we are genetic royalty. We're made up of 22 different species. We're the prize in the galaxy. Earth is incredibly important. And we're being helped massively by interdimensional, time traveling, whatever's. And I've seen them. I was going to tell you the story about the UFO I saw here last year. It was, it was mind blowing. It was, I got an email from somebody, and I get thousands of emails a week. It takes up half my week just sifting through them. And
fair play to you actually for responding to my email.
Well, it's not easy, and I do miss people, but I do my best. And I don't know, something resonated because you left a comment at one of my videos, didn't you? And I was like, yeah.
But I recognized the fact that you were probably getting tons of emails, so it was nice. It was nice for you to respond. Appreciate that.
Well, I looked at your channel. I was like, he's doing great work. Landscape, that is good work, and the men of this country really need this kind of thing.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, because a lot of them are bottling everything up.
In a big way.
Bottling. There's a lot of anger here. And that, by the way, let's talk about Ireland a little bit. You guys watching this, go and get Ireland, Land of the Pharaohs. Go and watch my interview with the guy that wrote Island Atlantis. I only did that a few weeks ago.
That was the first thing that I saw, actually. That was what put me on to you, was watching you interview this guy. Because Jim Core said this a few years ago, and everybody laughed at him, like normally they do when they hear truth at first. Is Ireland really Atlantis? And then I asked you where you did ayahuasca. I did an ayahuasca ceremony at an ancient sacred site called Carnahala in Tipperary, which we were told was the decoy site for the ancient pharaohs, the connection with ancient Egypt through the ley lines and Princess Tia, and that people think Newgrange and the Hill of Tara is where it's at. Sorry, they're the decoy sites.
Decoys.
Carnahala is where it's at. There's a pure magic there. It has its own ecology. And I interviewed the guy that's the current sort of residential caretaker of the place. It's been handed down through his family, and he's an amazing guy. Shout out to Tom if he's watching.
Hi, Tom. I'm going to come and see you. I want to come there.
I want to be a fly on the wall when you come to meet Tom.
No, we'll go together.
Turkey tail and turkey tail soup with Tom. Yeah. Sorry. So coming back to your UFO experience and talking about Ireland and its ancient sacred sites, right?
Well, you know, the Toile de Danann allegedly came down on ships and landed on Iron Mountain, which is Drumshanbo, which is just over there. There was a UFO crash here in 1996. There was a woman here called Betty Mailer, who was an amazing woman, who set up the UFO Society of Ireland here, right in Boyle, right? And I've been coming in drawn
that you're there, so
drawn here for years. Anyway, so I get this email and it says, it got my attention because she said, they know you look up every night, which I do. My whole life, I've always looked up, fascinated with the sky. I won't call it space. I'll call it the sky. And the things that I've always well, exactly. And she said, they know you look up every night, and this is what they've said. Next time you see a star that you feel, start talking to it in your mind, and then ask it to move left and right and up and down, and then you'll know you're attached and you'll feel it. That's exactly what I did. A star was doing this, and then there was a flash in the sky over here, and I was like, whoa. And then what I heard was, did you see that? I went, yeah. And then there was another flash.
They were showing off to you.
No, just checking that the communication was there. And then they said, are you afraid? And I said, no. And then immediately this light popped up over the roofs of the houses near me. Beautiful, beautiful, big bulb, slow moving, a white light that I couldn't even describe. It's white, but it's not. It's just stunning. Very similar to the kind of colors I was seeing with the sun in Derbyshire. Mm-hmm. And it just came across like this. And then the sky lit up. And then there was this huge triangular shaped ship that was kind of burnt orange, covered in black hieroglyphics. It was there for a split second, and then it just Star Treks off like that. And I was like, whoa. It's funny, I mentioned Star Trek.
It's another normal evening in the life of Mark Attwood in Roscommon. Yeah.
Well, people don't know that Gene Roddenberry was based in Ireland when he was talking to aliens, whatever you want to call them, ETs, back in the 60s, and they're the ones who gave him all these experiences and told him to go and write Star Trek.
If you look at
there's an Irish connection,
the number of ancient sacred sites here in Ireland, it is. Have you been to Skellig Michael?
Yes.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it?
This country is that's why I said read The Pharaohs of Ireland, because in the beginning of that book, he talks about, I can't remember the name of the author, but he talks about the fact that the black magic that basically is kind of entrapped the human race.
Yeah.
In most countries, it was like 2 layers of magic. In Ireland, it was 16. Why do you think this country's been pommeled so hard? By the British? Not the British. It's the dark cabal that were coming through the British, right? Yeah. It's always the hidden hand behind.
Yeah.
Every war has been not what you've been told.
Huge trauma here. Yeah.
Massive trauma, because it's so spiritual. It's so powerful.
The British Crown and the Holy Roman Catholic Empire.
Why do you think they put so much
people here badly? Yeah.
Why do you think they put so much fluoride in the water? I mean, the first thing everybody in Ireland should do is stop drinking tap water and stop drinking the bottled water in the garage and go and invest in a fucking filter and get your water tested, because that fluoride calcifies your pineal gland, cuts you off from God, makes you docile, more receptive to suggestion and orders and rules and all that.
Put a shout out to one of our gents in the Menscape group, to Richard Rocker there, who has the functional naturopathic clinic in Ennis, where he has the alkaline water and the infrared sauna. I know Richard will be watching. And
I have an infrared sauna in my bedroom. Changed my life.
Yeah.
If I don't go in that sauna for half an hour every morning, it's a shit day. It's amazing. It's just, and it was like 300 quid. It's like a little tent in my bedroom. And these things are so powerful. Like this, I mean, you don't need to, this is about 300 quid as well. And this is like a cold laser therapy. And this cleans your blood because it's all about, you mentioned parasites earlier. I should show you this. These lights here. Let's keep turning it off. Sorry.
That's your techie gadgets. It looks a bit sci-fi, doesn't it?
It is. But it's actually really simple technology. These lights go in to your blood and they're killing parasites. I mean, you can build the equivalent to one of these for 20 quid. If you go to bobbeck.com, he was an American guy who built a little device with a battery. I think it's a tiny ampage, goes into your blood, and it gives you immortal blood because it's just killing all the debris in every cell in your blood, in your plasma.
We'll get Richard onto this. I can feel the fact that we're running out of time so fast. We might have to do a Menscape podcast 2 with yourself, Mark, at some point. I want to come back to the ancient sacred sites, right? So you've got Carnahaller, Skellig Michael, you've got a whole bunch of other places around the island of Ireland. You've got the dolmens, you've got the obviously Newgrange.
Well, the dolmens are really portals.
They're not tombs.
They're not tombs. I've got Carrickeel near here. They've got a big sign saying Carrickeel tombs. They're not fucking tombs.
They said that about the pyramids in Egypt, that they were tombs. It's like, come on. How stupid are we?
And did you see Graham Hancock's series, which doesn't go anywhere near far enough, on Netflix called,
yes.
I can't remember what it's called. Ancient Apocalypse.
Not Netflix. I boycott Netflix, but Graham Hancock I do see his stuff, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's got this series. It's been a massive hit called Ancient Apocalypse. And each episode is him going to a sacred site, basically just saying history is a lie, because it is. And I think The Guardian did a review, said it was the most dangerous program on television.
Fuck The Guardian, yeah.
I think the coronation of King Charles is the most dangerous program on fucking television.
Pseudo lefty bullshit, yeah. Oh, man. So come here. I want to go into. I want to run through a couple of quick fire questions with you. Have you ever eaten an insect?
I don't think so.
Not on purpose.
No, I've had a few flies in my mouth on a motorbike.
Walked on hot coals?
No, I've never done that.
Have you ever done public speaking?
Yeah, loads of it. I won a public speaking competition when I was 17, and I've done thousands of comedy gigs, thousands of live seminars all over the world. Yeah. I was a keynote. This is funny, actually. I'm going to tell you this.
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Just before Corona, I was the keynote speaker at a conference of barristers, 1,000 barristers in a massive hotel on the beach in Mauritius. And I got VIP'd there, and I was the unofficial crypto advisor to the Mauritian government for a bit. I mean, my life's nuts.
That sounds terrible. I'll have to go and do that. Yeah. What was your favorite trip abroad and why?
Been so many. I think the tour that I just did in America is fresh in my memory. That was incredibly hard, but incredibly beautiful. And I mean, I think it's a piece of history, actually, when we're going to look back on it. And yeah, that was the reason why, because I knew it was historical, and it was incredibly brave of the people that put it together and everybody that spoke on that tour. Yeah, that was amazing.
What are your favorite books? What books would you recommend to people, and why? We've touched on the Pharaohs of Ireland and Full Spectrum. Can't even read my own writing.
Full Spectrum Dominance.
Full Spectrum Dominance. Who's the author there, Mark?
I can't remember his name. I think it's F.William Engdahl.
We'll find out. I'll put it into the notes on the YouTube link.
Yeah, I mean,
unless we're deplatformed again and it goes on BitChute this time.
Well, maybe. But I think my favorite book ever is Jonathan Livingston's Seagull, because of its links with flying and spirituality. I love that book. But the kind of books I like reading, I've got books of here like Remote Viewing by Tim Riffat. That's amazing. All David Icke's books. I've got The Art of Dreaming, Carlos Castaneda. I don't really read fiction. The Law of One. I'm one book into that. That is heavy going, amazing stuff. That's the truth about the universe.
Is that The
You
stuff
heard
that
of that?
David Wilcox goes on
Yeah.
about. I read his book, The Ascension Mysteries.
Yeah,
I'm still a bit like the jury's still a bit out on him and Corey Good and
Oh yeah,
what
yeah.
side of
It's
the
not.
fence they're on, but they reference the law of one quite a lot.
Yeah, I think the Law of One's very important. The other
Yeah.
series here is the Anastasia series. Have you heard of those? These
No,
are.
far away.
This is where we're going. This is called Anastasia, but it's called the Ring in Cedar series. And I think there's 8.
Vladimir.
Yeah, it's Russian originally, but this is where we're going. This talks about Anastasia, and Anastasia is a 5D human who can commune with animals, lives in nature, has superpowers, and I've not finished all of these either, but that is something I think everybody should be reading.
So we've got Anastasia, we've got Johnston, Livingston, Seagull,
Jonathan Livingston,
Dreaming, The Pharaohs of Ireland. Which David Icke book would you pick out as one of your favorites, and what you'd recommend to people and why?
Well, if people have not read anything of his, go and read The Biggest Secret, because that was published in 1998. And in that book, he basically predicts 9/11. He names Prince Philip, who I met, and Jimmy Savile and Ted Heath as paedophiles, and they never took him to court because he was telling the truth.
They'd have to prove they weren't.
Exactly. And they would have failed.
The one that woke me up, I suppose, was The Children of the Matrix. I got that around about 2007.
Yeah.
I'd been doing a lot of research of my own in the noughties, looking into sort of what was freely available on the internet back then. And there was interviews with New York firefighters, and they were basically covered in sort of smoke and rubble. And they're like, we heard explosions in the basement. I don't know what the hell's going on. We ran in there to help people. Next minute, we're running out again because and it's like, you couldn't find any of these interviews afterwards. And I'm like, hang on a minute, the official story behind this is a load of baloney. What's actually going on? And the more and more I looked into it, the more and more traumatized I became. I'd be up until 3 o'clock in the morning with a bottle of wine on my office desk, watching video after video after video. And it was all like, hang on, how can America's own people be killed by America's own government? Or, what's even behind that then? And that opened a can of worms for me that then led to the David Icke books, the Children of the Matrix, and then others. And he's literally basically listing out all of these filthy rich Zionist kind of guys with names and addresses that are all connected to these dodgy sort of Skull and Bones and other secret societies in America that are determining American foreign policy, putting the prime ministers and the presidents into office. And to say my eyebrows were raised once, twice, and both times would be an understatement. That was mind-blowing.
Well, all these books and people and everything are all out there as part of a plan. It's God's plan. And I got this vision. I get visions as well. And I got the vision 3 years ago of this giant chessboard. Like,
you're a seer.
Billions of people on this chessboard, multi-dimensional chessboard. But the overarching message was that every single one of us is part of this. Where we go one, we go all is a real thing. And we're all being moved around precisely as is required to achieve the objective, which is the eradication of the darkness and moving into the light and moving into, the whole galaxy is ascending. It's not just us. The planet is, and so is the whole galaxy. And what's coming? I'm an apocaloptimist. I should apologize to anybody watching.
Apocaloptimist.
Apocaloptimist, yeah.
You better tell us what that means.
Well, we're in the apocalypse, which just means great unveiling in Greek. And I'm an optimist about the outcome.
Apocaloptimist.
Apocaloptimist. And great things are coming. Absolutely incredible things are coming. Like beyond belief.
One of the things that COVID taught us, like you highlighted earlier, was this kind of polarization. And I think for the people that are doom and gloom and life is a nightmare, and it's kind of reinforcing that, they'll live through that. And for the people, for those of us that have sort of said, oh, this is a time of great illumination and enlightenment and discovery, then we're going to create that reality. So it's almost like you've got these kind of these realities running side by side in the same exact environment, depending on what you're creating through what you believe and what you personally are looking to manifest. So if you're believing that, you know, everything's going to be all right in the end, which I'm afraid I'm a bit of a softie like that. I do kind of like, you know, the odd bedtime story where the ending's a happy ending, you know.
That's what you get a Thai massage, isn't it?
I wouldn't know about that. I wouldn't know.
Me neither. I just heard. Well, you know, I mean, one thing David Wilcock, I think, was right about is, and I've used this myself. I use this to become a West End director of a comedy show, and it's the hero's journey. And the heroes, you know, if you go and look up the original book about this by Joseph Campbell called The Hero of a Thousand Faces, 1936, I think that was published. He was the guy that first looked through all the stories that have resonated throughout history, and they all follow the same pattern. The story of Jesus is exactly the same as many other stories, and Star Wars. Star Wars is the best example of it. And actually, the universe itself is playing out a hero's journey on a massive scale, which is why you've got the 26,112 year cycle, which the Mayans knew about. And then even on a micro level, inside your cells, each cell's playing out a hero's journey. Your own life is a hero's journey. So it's worth studying what a hero's journey actually is. Because once you understand it, you understand why things happen when they happen on your level, but on a micro level, on a macro level. And I think there's a huge amount to that. And it's going back to what I said at the beginning, it's remembering who you are, who you really are, because you're an eternal soul. You've been here many times. You may have to come back. It depends if you graduate from Earth School, and that's where we're at.
I ain't coming back.
I'm not.
I'm fucking done with this shit.
I'm done.
I ain't coming back.
Done.
Yeah, it's like yeah. I think once you step into real, genuine, true authenticity, there's no real coming back from that. And a part of that comes real humility, right? Doesn't matter whether you got millions of followers, millions of subscribers, or anything, right? If you're one of these kind of fake, false celebrities where you've been catapulted through your service to the demonic forces or what have you, there's no authenticity there, or there's no creativity on your part there. There's something missing, there's something lacking. Whereas if you're authentic, doesn't matter if you've got one follower, one subscriber. If you're speaking your truth and you're authentic, you don't climb down from that. You ain't going back from that. That's where it's at.
100%. That's why I agreed to come on here. I don't care how many subscribers you've got or I've got. It doesn't make any difference to me. You know, I didn't do this to get subscribers. I did this because I was called to help.
But that may follow and come as a consequence of you speaking your truth and being authentic.
Which is weird, but because
it'll resonate with people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what's happened, and it's been fucking strange. But it's, you know, it's been a responsibility, to be honest. I mean, I'm father to 5, but I've got tens of thousands of other people that I seem to be taking care of, and I know I'm not necessarily the right. I'm just an ordinary bloke, you know. I'm not. I don't fancy myself in it. I've had a great life. I've done amazing things, but you know, I've fucked up loads of times and I've done stupid things. I'm just an ordinary bloke, you know. And it's just, you know, we're all ordinary. About to become really, well, we are actually. I think everybody's extraordinary. We're all miracles of creation for a start, sure. and we've forgotten that. Yeah, you know, we have forgotten how many sperm it takes to make one human being. You know, it's
a miracle,
and it is a miracle. And then when we grow from that spark of life, it's extraordinary. But look at people just drudging around the street wearing the mask, going to work I mean, all of it's bollocks. Where we're going, we don't have to go to work. It's all bollocks. You know, money is bollocks. The whole thing, the medical system is bollocks, and we're seeing it. It's all being exposed right now. It's beautiful. I mean, people are scared of it, and when the media falls, it's going to be even better.
I think it's becoming fairly evident that the mainstream media, your BBC, your Tories and your paedophiles, your RTE, and these people getting paid ridiculous amounts of money to spout what they're told to spout. I think that's going to be the last bastion that falls, you know, and then it's going to bring on the CGI alien invasion. Then is it?
Well, maybe. I mean,
what have they got coming next? Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but whatever comes, I don't give a shit. It doesn't really matter.
But you see it. You see, Boston Marathon, you see sort of Ukraine, you see COVID, you see all this stuff coming. It's all scripted. It's almost as if like it's a playbook. And there is actually even a kind of Illuminati sort of deck of cards where you can play your next move. It takes a bit.
It's about the nature of reality, because it's all about numbers, and But
what do you make of the Simpsons stuff in the Simpsons episodes where they're literally?
Well, this is what I'm coming back to. It's like there's a lot of journalist types at the moment all over the world, including Ireland, that look like they're fighting for the good, but they're stirring up fear as well. And all of this goes back to this manifesting. So I'll just tell you this simple idea that I had a few years ago, and that is, when you think of caveman drawings of like stick men with arrows pointing at a bison, yeah, like they're hunting, and then you see the dead bison and everything else. You see these stories in the caves. The assumption is that that's them recording what they did. What if they understood you draw it first and then it manifests and then you go out and do it? Because that's exactly what the media have done to us.
Cool. I like that.
That's exactly what predictive programming is.
So they understood their powers of creation. They were hungry, so they drew a big bison. And people are stumbling into these caves in the south of France saying, whoa, look, they were just doing a cartoon for us to find a few million years later.
No, I think they were manifesting.
I'm absolutely blown away. You've been a fantastic guest on the Menscape the podcast. I am going to zip through a 1-minute quick fire round, which if the last hour and a half has been anything to go by, it's unlikely to be quick fire with you, but we'll try.
Yeah, sorry, I'm verbose. I should have told you that.
And we'll wrap it up then. Aldi or Lidl?
Oh, as I say in Liverpool, I'm full of shite.
Aldi or Lidl?
Neither.
England or Germany?
Neither.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Blonde or brunette?
Blonde.
Manchester or Liverpool?
Ooh, Manchester.
Boccherini or Icke and the Bunnymen?
Oh, Icke and the Bunnymen, Liverpool band, yeah.
Brown or pink?
Brown.
I have to try hard not to smirk when I'm asking that, but nobody else seems to get it. Kerry or Dublin?
Oh, definitely Kerry. God, Dublin's horrible.
Spots or stripes?
Stripes.
Gardening or gym?
Gardening.
House or techno?
House.
Sun or moon?
Sun.
Emerald or ruby?
Emerald.
Silver or gold?
Silver.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
Meat or cheese?
Meat.
Onions or carrots?
Onions.
Salt or pepper?
Salt.
Hurling or rugby?
Rugby.
Pizza or Chinese?
Chinese.
And finally, forest or beach?
Ooh. Forest. My name's Attwood. It's got to be Forest.
What a great way to end the show. Thanks so much again, Mark, for being a guest. We'll get this out on the YouTube, and if they don't like it, we'll put it out on the BitChute. And
well, I'll share it on my social media. But it's been absolutely brilliant to meet you, Carl.
Cool.
And
you too.
Yeah, amazing, and so many parallels. It's just nuts.
Yeah, we'll talk again, God willing. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
God bless. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Menscape, the podcast with Carl.J. Ashley.